Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 30 of the Drop It Weight Loss, Wellness, Wisdom podcast. This podcast is tailor-made for those of you with weight to lose, those of you that are losing weight now, and those of you that are bathing in the success of your weight loss accomplishment. If it's your first time on the show, I'm your host, Nick Geoppo, and 5 years ago, I lost 110 pounds after a lifetime of losing and then gaining back 50 plus pounds every single year. And I've since dedicated my life to helping other people feel better in their own bodies and live the healthy lives they deserve by first losing weight and getting in better shape. So if that's something that you're looking to do, then you came to the right place. Episode 30 is brought to you by our very own Drop It community that just went live about a week and a half ago on July 1st. We just gave away our $500 raffle, our first $500 raffle, to one of our founding members, Cynthia Wolf. So congratulations, Cynthia, on winning the $500 raffle. And I hope that you enjoy the money and spend it on something that is exciting for yourself. The Drop It community gives you the structure, and it gives you the guidelines, and it gives you the support of the community and myself that you need to lose weight and actually keep the weight off. So if you're a listener to this podcast and you've resonated with my story, everything that I've learned about losing weight and then gaining it back in an unsustainable way, and then everything that I've learned about losing 110 pounds and then keeping the weight off for what has now been over 5 years is built into this community and built into the teachings around this community. So if you resonate with my story, go and click the link in the podcast description to join today, become a Drop It community member, and claim the life and the body you deserve. Try something different. If you're somebody that's been losing weight and then gaining it back, try something different. This is the thing that is different. This is the sustainable approach. If you want to learn the common sense diet and step into the common sense framework on how to navigate food and exercise in a way that you can do for life that is not a major inconvenience to you and change habits over time, this is where you do it. The topic of today's episode is optimizing your environment, changing your environment, setting up your environment for success. When we talk about environments, we really are speaking about our house, our apartment, our kitchen, our living room, but also our vehicles, our working spaces, any time where you are regularly spending your time. What can we do to set up these environments to succeed? Now, if you're listening to this podcast right now, think about what environment you spend the most time in. It's probably your house or your apartment. And if you're listening on your phone, stand up right now and walk into your kitchen, walk into your living room, look around, and does this house, does this apartment, does this living area look like the living area of somebody that lives a healthy lifestyle? Does this living area look like the living area of somebody that really is losing weight and pursuing a life of health? When you open the fridge, is there just a bunch of bullshit? And be honest with yourself, right? I mean, this was me my entire life. Is there a gallon tub of ice cream in the freezer? Are there family-sized bags of Doritos or Lay's in the cupboard? Really look around, and if you were walking into this person's house and you didn't know who they were, does it look like they are taking care of themselves, or does it look like they're just kind of doing whatever? And be really honest with yourself, right? For me, my entire life, I just had bullshit all the time in the house, in the freezer. And as much as we want to say, well, I'm learning self-control, and to learn self-control, I got to be able to keep the ice cream in the freezer and then only have one bite when I want it. Look, the people that succeed with alcoholism aren't the people that learn how to pour alcohol into their mouth and then spit it out to exercise self-control. They're the people that just spend less time around alcohol. And though food and alcohol and alcoholism are not the same thing, because the solution to alcoholism is to stop drinking, the solution to food addiction or obesity is not to stop eating. We still have to eat. So they're not exactly comparable, but in some ways they really are. You need to find a way to have some balance, to have a healthy relationship with food. But if you have zero self-control, this idea that you're going to be thinking about ice cream every single time you open the freezer, or be looking at a bag of Doritos every single time that you open the closet or the cupboard, and you're just going to self-control yourself into weight loss for the rest of your life, it doesn't make any sense. The people that succeed are the people that don't put themselves in situations every single hour of every single day where they have to think about food. So the first thing you can do is step one to optimize your environment. Remove tempting foods from your environment. Do you eat ice cream every night before bed? Remove the ice cream from the freezer and throw it away. Do you eat a handful of chips every time you walk into the kitchen? Or even just 1 or 2 chips every time you walk into the kitchen? Throw away the chips. Is there a cookie jar where you every day have 1, 2 cookies in the morning, sometimes at night as well? So you're having 4 to 5 cookies a day just because. Throw away the cookies. Clearing out these temptations is going to help you reduce the mindless snacking and make healthier choices. We're trying to reduce the mindlessness when it comes to food. And a lot of the times when we have quote-unquote junk food, foods that we know are not serving us in our sustainable weight loss journey because we overeat on them, and it's different person to person, right? There's some people that always overeat on blocks of cheese. I have blocks of cheese in my refrigerator because I enjoy eating cheese, and I sometimes eat a 1-inch cube of cheese in the morning and at night, but I'm never overdoing the cheese, right? So different people have different tempting foods and different triggering foods. I can't come onto this podcast and tell you, remove the ice cream at all costs. You can't have it because you might not have an ice cream problem. You might be the kind of person that could have ice cream sit in the freezer and only have a scoop once a week and be totally fine with that. That wasn't the case for me. Ice cream owned so much of my thought and so much space in my head that I would be uncomfortable when I would open the freezer and I'd see the ice cream and go, oh my God, I'm in this calorie deficit and I'm dealing with these cravings and it's right there. It's right there. It's like being a drug addict and just having drugs in your house and then saying, I'm just going to practice not doing them. Like, remove them from the fucking house, okay? No, food and drugs are not the same, but there is an element of addictiveness that these specific foods that most people overeat on are designed for you to be addicted to them. Most people are not overweight because we're eating too many apples. We're not overweight because we're eating too much chicken breast or too much ground beef. We're not overweight because we're overeating on whole, real, natural, or single ingredient foods. We're overweight because we're overeating on processed foods that have a shit ton of ingredients in them that are not natural, that were made in labs, that were manufactured in labs by people and then put into containers and sent to us. I mean, that's what's actually happening in the world. Remove the foods that you are overeating on. Just do it. Just throw them away. Throw them away. Waste them. You don't have to, well, I spent $3 on this bag, and yet throw it away. The $3 is a lost cost. You're going to feel like shit after you eat the whole bag of chips. You know which foods are not serving you personally. I don't know which foods are not serving you personally because we don't work together one-on-one, but you do. So take that step. You owe it to yourself to prioritize your health more than you do to eat chips or ice cream every single day. Or beat yourself up having to think about chips and ice cream every time that you walk into the kitchen and then making weight loss this ultra restrictive thing that you're constantly thinking about all the time. Like, just take the step. This is the most important thing that you can do. It's just to remove them from your house. And the second thing is, right, we talked so much about what you can't eat. I don't have a healthy relationship with ice cream because I eat it all the time and I feel like I just can't stop. So I'm going to throw it away. Now I can't eat ice cream. I don't have a healthy relationship with chips because when I have a bag of chips, I just keep eating them until they're gone. I don't have a healthy relationship with chips. I can't eat this. I can't eat that. I can't. Negativity. We're focusing on everything that we can't do. What about what you can do? And this is what part of the common sense diet is all about, right? This is what we teach in the Drop It community that is based on this idea of the common sense framework and the common sense diet. Eat less of the foods that are not serving you on your journey and more of the foods that are. That's the part that we miss. Whenever I would go and lose weight, I would cut out. I would always focus on what I had to cut out. I would never focus on what I was bringing in. It was this focus on negativity at all times, right? So step number 2 to optimize your environment is stock up on and focus on the foods that are supporting you. Let's put more focus on what we are eating and what we are able to eat. So instead of having this bland kitchen filled only with foods that you dread because they're low calorie and high protein or whatever it is exactly that you're going for, let's think about how lucky we are to be able to eat fresh fruit and fresh vegetables and fresh proteins and even maybe fresh grains. How lucky are we to be able to eat and have basically unlimited access to whatever food we want, like meat, fruit, rice, vegetables, potatoes, dairy products, yogurts, Greek yogurts, bacon, eggs, milk, whatever those things are that you are prioritizing on the common sense diet, mostly whole, real, natural, single ingredient foods. 80% or so of the time. We are so lucky to be able to do that. Challenge yourself when you start feeling the dread of, oh, my diet. You're not on a diet. You're on the common sense diet, which isn't a diet. It's a framework to help you have a healthier relationship with food by prioritizing more natural foods. Let's focus on what we are eating and focus on how lucky we are. Challenge yourself and remind yourself how lucky we are to be able to eat foods that will make us feel good over time, that will make us live longer over time, that we will start craving more of and becoming more accustomed to over time, should we just decide to see the journey through. Step number 3 to optimize your environment is to create a dining area. I never had a dining area. Even growing up, our kitchen table as a family just had shit all over it, like newspapers and garbage and people's backpacks or whatever. It was like a storage place. The dining room table was not clean. It was a storage place. We never really sat down at the dining room table, maybe unless it was a holiday. Typically, we ate while standing up in the kitchen, or sometimes we'd be sitting at a bar stool in the kitchen. There wasn't really a dedicated dining area. Set up a dining area to be a place where you can enjoy your meals without any distractions. This is step number 3. Without any distractions. Remove the clutter from the table. Add a touch of ambiance. Add a candle. Add some flowers to the table. Create a calm environment where you can actually eat mindfully and appreciate your food and like really connect with the food. Sit down, put your phone on the other side of the room so you're not on your phone when you're eating. Turn Netflix off. Turn the blaring music off and eat with no distractions. Really look at the food. Even if you're not eating whole, real, natural foods, even if you're eating some ice cream, that's fine. You don't have to restrict yourself forever from ice cream or the things that you really love. It's a part of being a human. And a life never eating ice cream again sounds miserable. Though if you have an ice cream problem, again, you probably shouldn't keep a gallon tub of it in your freezer like we talked about earlier. But if you're eating some Haagen-Dazs ice cream, sit down at the dining room table or whatever area you're setting up, maybe a bar stool on the counter, wherever your dedicated eating area is. Sit down and look at the food and enjoy it for what it is. Breathe in between bites. Eat 10% slower than you normally do. And just really enjoy the food. And think about how fucking good this food really tastes. Taste it for the way it was meant to be tasted. Our food wasn't meant to be eaten while we're watching Netflix and scrolling on social media and blaring music or listening to a podcast. And like, sit down and eat with no distractions. Be a human. Enjoy. Think about the food as you swallow it, moving down through your body. Like, feel that it literally is fuel to you. And the first step to do that is to have an area where you can eat. If you're someone that typically eats on a couch, that doesn't count. Set up an area with an actual chair that is not in front of the TV, that is either at a kitchen table. You don't have a kitchen table. Set up something with a bar stool and don't do anything at that area besides eat. This is just your eating area. Never go and sit in this area unless you are eating your meal. And commit to never eating meals at home unless you're sitting in this area. No standing in the kitchen while we eat Doritos. If you're going to eat some Doritos, put them on a plate, not out of the bag, and sit down at the counter and eat them in a normal portion size, which is like 8 or 9 chips if you look at the bag. That's how you create a dining area and practice mindful eating. By doing so, it's going to help you have a much healthier relationship with food and also naturally eat a lot less calories. The fourth thing you can do to optimize your environment is communicate with the other people in your house. So maybe you're someone that has roommates. Your roommates might not be prioritizing their health the same way that you are. If they have certain foods that just trigger you, or you're even someone, I used to be someone that would like steal food from my roommates and just eat like a bite of that, and they're probably not going to know, and they're not going to say anything. Like, that's how fucked up I was with some of the food stuff. And I used to hate when I was trying to lose weight, my roommates would have Domino's pizza in the refrigerator, and I'd be like, hey, yeah, I'll pay you, I'll Venmo you, I'll send you some money if you can give me some of that pizza. And they'd go, okay. And I was just always around the food, right? What I ended up eventually doing was just talking to my housemates, my apartment mates, my roommates, and setting some boundaries. Hey, y'all, I'm really struggling with this thing. Could you help me in this way? For me, there's just a couple things that really get to me, and I know it's kind of awkward having this conversation, but I don't have a very healthy relationship with food right now, and I'm in a way, I'm actually kind of ashamed of that, even though I probably shouldn't be. But having cookies all over the place and chips all over the place just makes me think about the food all the time, and I'm trying to stop doing that. can we take some of these snacks and can we put them in your room? Or maybe I can get you like a little cupboard in a different room, or a little mini fridge that we can put somewhere else in the apartment, just so I don't have to see it all the time. Is that something that you can work with me on? It would really mean the world, and I'll buy that for you. Yes, boom, done. That's how you set some boundaries and communicate with your housemates in a way that they will have more respect for you on your journey. Now, the other situation is people that live with their families, right? Maybe you're a parent that lives with your kids and you're on the common sense diet, which again isn't a diet at all. It's a framework to make healthier choices more often, right? You don't want your kids to have to do this food thing that you're doing. There's a couple things to consider here. Number one is unhealthy relationships with food, coping mechanisms, using food to cope, and obesity in general are generational. A lot of us are obese because of what we learned from our parents, or the way that our parents treated us, or the way that our parents didn't teach us things that they could have taught us should they have had the knowledge, even though they probably didn't, right? It's not our parents' fault that we are obese, but it's not necessarily our fault either. Our parents didn't have access to the information that we do to jump on a podcast and talk about and hear someone talk about how to lose weight and how to have a healthy relationship with food. This didn't exist at the time. They were just relying on the news and newspapers that were throwing total bullshit information out at people like sugar from fruit is bad and red meat is bad for you. We now know those things are not true. Factually, they are not true. But those are the types of messages that our parents regularly received. They were told that fat makes you fat, too many carbs are bad, sugar and fruit is bad, and red meat gives you cancer, and don't eat too much salt. Those things are not true. And those have been challenged for years now online. We see most of the healthiest people that we see are eating all of those things quite regularly. You might even say almost daily most of the time. That being said, it's not our parents' fault, but it's also not our fault that our parents didn't know. So it's not really anybody's fault, but it is our responsibility. And if we were to imagine that our parents had all of the information and all the knowledge that we now have, or that you now have from listening to this podcast or consuming other positive content online, had our parents had this information, we would have learned it at a younger age, and then we would not have been obese, most likely. We would have had a healthier relationship with food growing up, right? And then there's the other side of it, where a lot of people go through situations where their parents tell them they can't eat certain things. You got to be skinny, because when you're skinny, your life's going to be better. And then people develop unhealthy relationships with food, sometimes even eating disorders out of that, right? So there's both sides of that coin. Parents that restricted us too much, and parents that never taught us about anything related to food. And there's some overlap there too. If you fall into that category, recognize that you are impacting your kids right now. Your kids are relying on you to teach them how to have a healthy relationship with food. Not necessarily by sitting down and giving them a lesson, but by leading by example. The way to do it is to be an example to them of someone that has a healthy relationship with food. One of the best ways you can do that is by prioritizing whole, real, and natural foods in your household. Meat, fruit, rice, vegetables, potatoes, dairy products, other single ingredient products, right? You can even Google what are whole foods and what are natural foods, what are single ingredient foods, and create meal plans off of those and prioritize those in the recipes that you're cooking for your family. This idea that you don't want to remove the ice cream from the freezer because your kid loves ice cream. I mean, how are you going to feel if your kid is fat as fuck? Like, really, like, let's be really, just cut all of this shit out, all the limiting beliefs out about, like, you be an example to your children. Be an example to your children. Your children should not be eating ice cream every day. That's great that your kids love candy. I ate candy every fucking day growing up. Your kids shouldn't be eating candy every day. There maybe shouldn't even be candy in the house. And you can talk to your children not about we're not eating candy because it's bad. It's not about focusing on negativity. It's let's eat this. Not we're not eating candy, but let's eat some fruit, right? Like, let's focus on the positivity and help our children understand that you can feel better by eating more whole, real, natural foods, and that you will have a longer and a healthier life. Should you just start doing this when you are a kid? If you don't take the step, having the knowledge that you have right now, if you don't take the step to lead by example, you are doing an injustice to your children. I know that's hard to hear because it's hard for me to say. You're doing an injustice to your children by allowing for your children to eat ice cream every single day. You are doing an injustice to your children by allowing your children to eat candy every single day. It doesn't mean they can't ever eat candy. It doesn't mean they can't go to their friend's birthday and eat candy at their friend's birthday. But why are our kids just eating ice cream whenever the fuck they want? Why are they eating candy whenever the fuck they want? Let's eat these foods when there is celebration that calls for it. Let's eat these foods when we are celebrating something, when we are celebrating a family night out at a restaurant, or a family barbecue cookout, or a holiday, or somebody's birthday. It just doesn't make sense. My kids will not grow up with candy and ice cream in the house. They won't. But they also will not grow up to think that candy and ice cream are horrible for you, and if they eat it, they're going to die. They're going to grow up to understand that these foods are tasty and celebratory, and that they're a part of culture and connection with other people, but they are not a part of our day-to-day lives. What is a part of our day-to-day lives are whole, real, natural foods that humans have been eating since the beginning of time, not foods that were created in labs about 100 years ago, where now everyone is obese and now everyone is dying of these weird diseases that never existed before, like cancer and heart disease, right? And gosh, how just matter of fact is that topic, but there is a point where like you signed up to be a parent, and what I'm doing, I'm not really talking to you, I'm talking to my future self right now. When I visualize having this conversation, my eyes are closed and I'm looking at myself in 10 years when I'm 40. Nick, you signed up to be a fucking parent. Parent your children. Parent them by leading by example. Don't parent them by making them afraid of foods that we know aren't good in excess. Parent them by teaching them how to have self-control and by teaching them how to eat more nourishing foods in regular quantities. Think of how much better your childhood and your life would have been should your parents have taken the approach that I'm recommending you take right now. You can be that for your kids. And the way that so many of us feel resentment towards our parents, potentially that is what your kids will feel towards you should you not take this opportunity to lead by example. You can be the person that breaks generational trauma. You can be the person that breaks generational obesity. What is the thing that you are here to heal from your bloodline? For me, it's divorce, element of poverty, not thriving, not experiencing abundance financially, generationally, and it's addiction. Those are my three things that I'm here to heal, that I'm dedicating my entire life to. What are the things that you're here to heal? Is obesity or addiction one of the things? Is lack of prioritizing health one of the things? You can just decide to be the person that does it. There's no calling. You're not going to be called towards it. You have to consciously decide you're going to be the superhero. Do you want to be the superhero for your family, or are you going to rely on your kids to be the superhero that changes things around? Potentially, this is a totally new way of even looking at things for you. But understand that the reason why I say that weight loss is the ultimate teacher is because this mindset applies to everything. It's so much more than weight loss. It applies to every single thing. How are you bettering your life in a way that is better than your parents? And how are you setting up your kids to live a better life than you had? And how can you teach them over time to set up the lives for their kids that they never had, so that your family can continue to improve in all of these different domains? Happiness, health, finances, freedom, whatever that means for you. Write those down. The fifth thing you can do to optimize your environment is delete the delivery apps. A part of why eating whole, real, natural foods over processed foods most of the time can be a little bit difficult is because processed foods are just so convenient. That's the one thing that they have, right? It's the convenience factor of getting McDonald's delivered to your house versus cooking something, right? Now, the whole idea behind the common sense diet that we talk about in the Drop It community all the time, and that we also talk about on this podcast, is making natural foods or nourishing foods more convenient than processed foods. And we do that in two ways. The first is by making processed foods less convenient. And one of the steps towards doing that is deleting the delivery apps. If you have a craving for McDonald's and it's 10 o'clock at night and you can order it on DoorDash or Uber Eats with the click of a button and then have it in 25 minutes, that's too convenient. Let's delete the app and delete our credit card information from the app, so that should we give into that, we would have to install the application, sign up for it, delete your account, and then type in our credit card information and then go and type in the order. That is enough inconvenience that we're probably not going to do it. We're less likely to. So we're going to delete our delivery apps to make processed foods less convenient. And then we're going to make our foods that are supporting us, our whole, real, natural, nourishing foods on the Common Sense diet, make them more convenient. by being able to prepare them in larger quantities, by creating recipes for ourselves that we can make in less than 15 minutes of foods that we actually like. It's about doing the work up front, right? But one of the steps is to delete the delivery apps. The sixth step towards optimizing your environment, we're talking so much about food, right? Sustainable weight loss has so much to do with having a healthy relationship with food and educating yourself on which sorts of foods make you feel good and support you on your weight loss and your health overall. But what about optimizing for activity, right? And working out. Make your home a place that encourages physical activity. And you can do this by maybe you're doing little home workouts 3 times a week for 15 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is, right? Set up a little area with a yoga mat or some resistant bands or some weights if that's what you're using. Or maybe you're going on daily walks, which are by far the most underrated form of physical activity that will help you lose weight and sustain your weight loss and feel healthy and good much later into life, is going on a walk every day. If you're someone that's starting your day with daily walks, have your shoes laid out the night before. Have your shorts laid out the night before. Have things set up so that it's easier for you to do them even when you're not motivated and you don't want to. So optimize for activity as well as optimizing just for food. And the last step to optimizing your environment is to focus on the other environments outside of your house. So where else do you spend time? For me, it was work and my car. So my car always had a bunch of snacks in them, and I would have this rich, fully optimized environment that was set up for success when I was at home. And then I would get in the car and have chips or crackers in the glove compartment, or just kind of food and shit and snacks all over the place that I got from the gas station. Clean out the car. Get the food out. There doesn't need to be any food in the car at all. You can remove all of that. And what about work? For work, for me, it was Hershey Kisses. I had Hershey Kisses in my drawer at my cubicle 5 or 6 years ago. And every time I'd get to work, I'd eat 1 or 2 of them right when I got there at 7 or 7:30. I'd eat 1 or 2 of them throughout the day. At lunch, I'd have 2 or 3. Before I'd leave, I'd take, 1 and eat it on the way out. By the end of the day, I'd have like 6 or 7 Hershey Kisses every day. For you, it might be something else. It might be the snack drawer at work, right? And we tend to eat at the snack drawer when we're on our break or when we're on our lunch. You can't control that environment if it's not in your control, but you can control how you respond in that environment. And the way to do that, you can remove yourself from the environment on your break. So instead of sitting down on your break, even though you've been sitting down all day, right? So you might be working at a cubicle sitting down for 4 hours and then going and sitting down and eating lunch for an hour and then going and sitting down for your second 4 hours of the day. You're sitting down all day. Let's eat our lunch in 10 or 15 minutes and then get up and go on a walk. Let's get up and remove ourselves from the environment, right? You can remove yourself from these environments and start putting some thought into, when do you typically give in to temptation? I typically give in to temptation when I am really stressed after this 3 o'clock meeting that I have. That is always a really hard meeting for me. Okay, what can we do to change our mental state before or after that meeting, or to remove ourselves from the environment just for 3 minutes after that meeting? Maybe we take a 3-minute break and walk outside and take a breath and then come back. Start really paying attention, thinking about, where is it that you're feeling temptation? Where are you giving into temptation in other environments? What can you do to change your mental state or remove yourself from those environments at that time, and remind yourself of your goal? Remind yourself of why you want to lose weight, why you want to keep the weight off, what it is exactly that you're hoping to accomplish, what you're running towards, what you're running away from. Those are the 7 steps to controlling and optimizing your environment. Number 1, remove tempting foods. Number 2, stock up on supportive foods or focus on what you are eating instead of what you aren't. Number 3, create a mindful dining area. Number 4, communicate with household members. Number 5, delete your delivery apps. Number 6, optimize for activity. Number 7, extend healthy habits to all other environments, cars, your work environment, and every other environment where you spend ample time or where you typically eat foods in quantities that are not supporting you on your sustainable weight loss journey. If you made it to the end of the podcast, I greatly appreciate you being here. If you made it to the end and you've been watching the podcast for a while, please leave us an honest review, anywhere from 1 to 5 stars on Apple or Spotify or any other platform that you're listening on. It really helps us to reach other people that will also benefit from having a healthier relationship with food, exercise, losing weight, keeping the weight off, and feeling better in their own bodies. And it would just make me feel really great. And it's the best way to support me on this journey of spreading this message that you absolutely have what it takes and that we have so much more control over our own lives than we ever thought possible. To all of the Drop It community members, I've really enjoyed working with all of you for the last week and a half and seeing all of your successes as we're just now starting to hit some weigh-ins and also seeing some results with our belts being a little looser, with us feeling a little better, and with the number on the scale going down a few pounds here in the first week for so many different people. It's been very rewarding for me, and I'm so excited to continue to be on this journey with all of you. To everybody else, we will see you on the podcast episode next Wednesday, and I hope that everybody has a great week.